50 States of Terror may include content unsuitable for young audiences. Listener discretion is advised. Content warnings will be included in the show notes. This is Missouri, the Ozark Howler. Hello, world, and welcome to another fantastic episode of 50 States of Terror. I am your podcast host, Anthony Diaz. Thank you so much for coming back to the show and listening to part 2 of Missouri. Like I said last time, I will be doing part 2 for this state. Reason being is because we had originally did the poll to see which cryptid everybody wanted to listen about, and so I picked 2 of them. So we have the previous episode is the Missouri Joplin butterfly people. I hope you enjoyed it. That was a more scripted type show. Like I said, in the previous episode, because of the content of, the events that happened in Joplin, I wanted for it to be a little more serious and try out that thing of making a scripted episode. But this one is going to be like a normal episode that you would normally hear. This is more laid back. We're going to talk about some cool things, talk about some not cool things that happen in Missouri or in the Ozarks. But thank you all again for coming and listening to part 2 of Missouri, the Ozark Howler. This one was by far a one that I enjoyed researching because the origins of this thing it's in that mysterious realm of like what is hiding in the woods. Is it a big monster? Is it a large humanoid creature? Is it a giant bear? Is it a giant, I don't know, bird type thing? And the Ozarks is huge. You see, I have been to Missouri. I have my extended family is out there in Missouri. I love you guys. Hello from South Texas. And on my first visit to Missouri, it was years and years and years before I met my wife. And I went to St. Louis on a conference when I was volunteering for the Mission Continues. And that's when I was the state director for Student Veterans of America. I went to different colleges in Texas and talked about returning veterans issues and how to ease the transition from military life into college life using their, post 9/11 GI Bill. And one of the conferences was this huge gala that was done by the Mission Continues in St. Louis, Missouri, which was really fun. But we stayed in the city, and there wasn't a whole lot of outdoor adventures that we could have done out in that event. But when I met my wife and then we went on our Missouri trip, I gotta say, like, Missouri is just gorgeous. Some of the parts are just they're so beautiful, green and hilly, and it was a sight to see. A lot of this research that I went to for this one, the Ozark Howler, it it stems from a a Midwest feel, you know, and not to where you think of like the Appalachians. It's well, here let's just get into it. Okay, so the Ozark Mountains cover approximately 47,000 square miles. Okay, it's huge. The highest elevation is around 2,561 feet, and the mountains themselves, the Ozarks, what we know today, 542 million years ago, these mountains were formed by erosion. So when you think about mountains themselves, you think, well, originally when you're taught in school, these two huge titanic plates come and they just smash into each other, and then a mountain forms from their collision. Well, in this instance, it was all done by erosion. And when you look at pictures of the Ozarks, you can definitely see where, yeah, it kind of just etched its way into what now are these gorgeous rivers. It's fantastic. In the Ozarks, it spans between Oklahoma, a very, 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 very tiny piece of Kansas, Arkansas, and Missouri. And what is frightening, well, at least to me, it's frightening and and like scary and spooky all around, is that there are over 5,000 mapped caves in the Ozarks. And then I was reading that some of those caves are connected underground. So you can go into one cave and pop out somewhere else, somewhere a little, possibly maybe 100 miles away from where you started. And it makes my mind go bonkers of how, like, dwarven fantasy just etch their way into the underground, making these mines, and then what can be found underneath the earth. Oh, it was just it made my fantasy mind just go wild, and I'm here for it. I love it. But going into the Ozarks themselves, I wanted to focus on Missouri, obviously, because we're talking about Missouri. And so let's go into the culture of the Ozarks themselves. Okay. Missouri as a whole has a plethora of history, good and bad. But it's a state that was a foundation of, well, settlers going west. And then you have the American Civil War, Missouri being a border state from the Confederate armies and the Union. There's just a lot of just blending culture in that area in Missouri. So yeah, early settlers in Missouri within the Ozarks were pioneers from southern Appalachia, the beginning of around the 19th century. That's 1800s. By the 1840s and 1850s, Irish and German immigrants came to settle within what is now known as the Ozarks. Now, however, much of the Ozarks population is of English, German, and Scotch Irish descent. And early settlers relied on hunting, fishing, trapping, and foraging for their, diets and incomes. So I can just imagine, old, maybe 1820s, 1830s, and you have, a log cabin up in the Ozarks, and how they make their money is by fur trapping. Like, reading about this makes me want to play Red Dead Redemption again. That's fantastic. But like I said before, this part of America, Missouri, has some dark history and some interesting history as well within the Ozarks. So one in particular that was extremely fascinating to read about was post Civil War Ozark territory land type thing. So in the late 1880s, there was a group that was formed by Nat M. Kenny, and the group was called the bald knobbers. And if you were to Google this group and look at their masks, if there was never something in your life that was, what kind of scary thing could you find in the woods? Google one of those pictures and Google one of those masks and have a humanoid creature with something like that on trying to chase you. Yeah, that's that was gnarly. That was gnarly to look at. But the bald knobbers were created to fight against the bushwhackers and the anti-bald knobbers. Now, what these groups were, they were pro-Confederate or ex-Confederate soldiers, and this was all, post-Civil War vigilante groups. So, from my understanding of the reading, and please correct me if you are from Missouri and you are a historian or you are just you know your state. The bald knobbers were like kind of the good guys. I'm assuming they went and they had these vigilante type anti-Confederate, and they weren't really considered lawful because in my research they did some pretty heinous stuff too. But the idea was they formed this group, the Citizens Community, I think it was called, to fight against these post Civil War groups, the bushwhackers and the anti bald knobbers. And this was coming out of post Civil War legislation. It was the freeing of the slaves. They were given free slaves voting rights, and there was history there because Missouri was a border state, like I said, from the Civil War. Having the Southern Confederates and the Northern Union. So of course, after that time, there would be a lot of tension. And do yourself a favor. If you are doing nothing for an hour or so, just do some research on the Civil War and the impact it had on the states. It is mind-boggling to think how close the Civil War was to today. It was only 3 generations ago. 3 people. So the impact on what it did to this country is still being seen today, and the history of it, the intricate parts, how each state played their role, it's fascinating. And Missouri has a lot of this history, and I think I have a clear picture, or at least I think I do have a clear picture or a grasp of why the Ozarks played a huge role within the coming up to the Civil War. The river, the sustenance, the animals. I think if the Ozarks weren't there, I think there would be a different type of war in history for Missouri. I don't know. I think that area plays a huge role. But I digress. So let's get into the creature itself, the Ozark Howler. So the Ozark Howler has a couple of names, aka the Black Howler, aka the Devil Cat. And I'm partial for the Devil Cat because me being in the military, I was a Marine, and our nickname was Devil Dog. So like when I read that it was also known as a Devil Cat, it's like, okay, that's cool. I I can dig it. I like it. So we have sightings that came from 2005 to 2010. And there are maybe there are a handful of quote unquote photos that are out there. But this thing has been spotted several times by hikers, by outdoorsmen, people who live in the Ozarks. So let's go into the description of what this thing is. So there are a couple of different versions of what people claim to see. And I'm going to start off first, which was submitted to, I think, an ABC affiliate in Arkansas. And the trail cam, the photo, it looked like a shaggy, fairly large dog with a very straight, narrow tail, and it had two horns on its head. Now that looks extremely doctored. It doesn't look real. Now the other couple ones are what we're going to focus on. So one description had a bear-like bear-like creature, very large, thick black fur, yellow orbs for eyes, with two horns on its head. Now, a bear of that size, I don't exactly know if there can be any confusion on what other animal it might be, But when someone says, "Oh, that's a bear," you're not going to mistake what a bear is. But the description is very huge. It's this extremely large black bear, and some artist depictions of what this thing looks like. It had these long elongated incisor teeth. Now I can dig with that. I like that. But my favorite description is a giant cat. Now the reason why I like this more than the others is because this is the more plausible depiction of what this Ozark Howler is. Now it still has yellow eyes. It's still a very, very large cat, larger than like a cougar or mountain lion would be, and its hind legs are thicker than what a normal large cat would be. But I like this one better, again, because of the plausibility. But then also people within the community, the like the wildlife conservation people who are game wardens, things like that, have come out and said, well, the wild breeding of cougars or any big cats in that area of the Ozarks have been long gone. So there are no wild cats out there. So when people are coming forward and saying that they see this thing, I want to imagine this cat living in one of those deep, dark caves and then coming out every once in a while to feed. Man, that's just fantastic to me. But the cat version, to me, is more plausible. The Ozarks themselves are thick, they're dense, they're hilly. They have large cliffs. There's a bunch of places to hide. There's the caves. They have those large riverbeds. It to me, the plausibility of there being a large cat out there, I like that. Now, whether or not it's the Howler and it has, yellow eyes and two horns on its head, I don't know. But it could be out there. That's what I love about it. And when you look at the pictures of the Ozarks, they're green, they're hilly, there's trees, there's dense forest, there's those almost sheared off mountainsides where you can see the layers of sediment. There's those gorgeous rivers that flow through it. A beauty to it that almost makes me want to just, live in a tent out there for years. So again, like why wouldn't there be something as large as a cat, like a cougar or something, or a mountain lion that's living out there that just happens to be, extremely large and has yellow eyes and two horns coming out of its head. So, yeah. Personally, I'm gonna rate this one as a 4 out of 5. Now, if you were to tell me that, well, the Ozark Howler is definitely the picture of the mage looking dog with those cute little two little horns on his head. Okay, no, all right, look, I like it, I can dig it, but no, the cat version is for me. Oh, and almost forgot too. One very interesting and very cool thing that happened with the Ozark Howler is that it caught the attention of Lauren Coleman. And if you don't know who Lauren Coleman is, well, shame on you. But he is a prominent name within the cryptozoology community. And he did his own investigation and came to the conclusion that he did find that there was one person or possibly a small group of people with different aliases who were spreading misinformation or information, on web pages and blogs about the sightings of the Ozark Howler. And one thing that Lauren Coleman is known for is skeptic mindset to see if this thing is actually out there, actually real. I personally think it is because, hey, it just could be a very big cat. I don't know. I would like to think that there's a very large cat out there, but hey. So yeah, I give it a 4 out of 5. A 4 out of 5 golden Nessies. So that's it. Thank you guys so much for listening to the show. Again, my name is Anthony Diaz. You can find all of this content on our social media outlets. Let's go down the list. We've got Facebook at 50 States of Terror. We have Instagram at the same, at 50 States of Terror. Twitter, 50 States Terror without the of because of the character limitations. We are on Patreon, patreon.com/50 States of Terror. If you are feeling generous and you want to help support the show and bring the cost down of equipment and in all of the software, then please, I will forever be in your good graces, in your favor. And I would love that. TikTok, we just started a TikTok here at the show. 50 SOT podcast. So that's at 50 SOT podcast. You can see my ugly mug talking about crypto stuff. And yeah, a lot of good things are on the way. A lot of good stories are coming on along the way. I truly hope that you guys stay along for this ride. We are going full speed ahead. Missouri was awesome. I truly do love it. Next is Montana. Again, thank you guys for listening. Until next time. Later, y'all.